All right, a major new development putting the showdown over illegal immigration squarely back into the spotlight. The Obama administration now saying it will launch a case-by-case review of illegal immigrants slated for deportation. Now, this policy would appear to mirror parts of the DREAM Act. Remember that? Congress voted that one down last December, but the administration plans to do it anyway. Joining us now, Angela Kelly, who is Vice President for Immigration Policy and Advocacy. Dan Stein joins us, President of the Federation for American Immigration Reform. Good to have you both with us. Angela, let me start with you. So I've read through the letter from Janet Napolitano, and basically the bottom line here is only criminals and those who flagrantly violate the immigration laws will be deported. So if you behave, even though you're breaking the law, you're defying the law, you get to stay here illegally. Isn't this backdoor amnesty?
I think we've read different letters. The administration announced a policy yesterday that said we're going to prioritize our resources, Law Enforcement 101. We're going to go after people who are criminals, of course, going to continue a focus on them. This administration is on track to have deported 1 million unauthorized immigrants in the coming months. But for those who pose no threat, for those who have been here since they were children, for those who have family in the military, those are cases that are low priority. We're not going to focus on those cases.
Well, that's exactly what I read, too.
They're going to review cases carefully. So this isn't a backdoor amnesty. It's front door smart law enforcement policy.
They're here illegally, are they not? And in fact, let me put up on the screen the letter that you say I didn't read or read a different one. Here's the one from Janet Napolitano, and here's the principal point of it. Quote, the president has said on numerous occasions that it makes no sense to expend our enforcement resources on low-priority cases.
Correct.
So, Dan, let me go to you. Instead, she says, look, so the young people who are here illegally, in violation of the law, they get to stay. In your judgment, is that backdoor amnesty? Maybe it's front-door amnesty.
Well, it's definitely front-door amnesty. You have to look against the backdrop of the fact that the Obama administration is simply not enforcing U.S. immigration law in the interior outside of very, very serious violent felons. And so what we're looking at here is the administration simply taking away or usurping from Congress and the American people the right to decide who gets to come and who doesn't get to come, how many people get to come and under what conditions. The administration is simply rewriting the law with a big fat amnesty saying aliens can come forward and request prosecutorial discretion. Now, in a criminal context, criminals don't request prosecutorial discretion. What they're doing is transforming this into a quasi-legal status, eventually saying you're never going to get deported. Yeah. And you know what? Our constitutional system has a very clear framework. Congress establishes the laws. The administration turns around and enforces the laws. If the Obama administration will not execute the laws of this land, the immigration laws of the United States, why is this man the president?
You know, Angela, Congressman Lamar Smith, who, as you know, is chairman of the Judiciary Committee in the House, he said this, and we'll put this up on the screen. The administration should enforce immigration laws, not look for ways to ignore them. Isn't it the duty of the president and his administration to enforce the existing laws? And isn't this the president saying, well, we're not going to do that?
No, it is his duty to enforce the laws, and that's exactly what he's doing. Look, we have an undocumented population the size of the population of the state of Ohio. We have to make decisions, prioritize who we go after. Who are the high targets that are really important? People who are members of gangs, people who are drug dealers, those with criminal records. So what the administration is saying is we're going to focus like a laser beam on those cases. That's not many people, though, who've been here for a long time, who don't have a criminal record, who came as children. Yeah. Should we expend those same resources on that kid who is graduating from high school, or should we go after a gangbanger? Right. I think it's a simple decision. So look, this is, you can say it's an amnesty, but frankly, it's smart law enforcement that every single law enforcement agency does all the time. They have to expend their resources in a smart way.
Dan,
to exaggerate it and say that they're doing more isn't giving credit to wise use of taxpayer dollars.
I will actually give the administration credit for increasing the number of prosecutions of illegals tremendously over
then
the
let's
Bush,
give them credit
over the Bush administration. administration.
They've deported more than the Bush
Dan,
administration has.
Let me put it another way. Isn't this de facto DREAM Act? In other words, the president saying, I don't like what Congress did, so I'm going to do it anyway.
Well, the guidelines from ICE are far broader than just the DREAM Act. I mean, effectively what they're saying is if you come to the country and overstay a visa or you enter illegally and you don't, as long as you don't commit a violent felony, or you're a gangbanger, we're not going to bother with you. And why won't the Obama administration give the American people a break and start enforcing immigration laws and free up jobs, help improve wages, start deporting illegal aliens who are here so we can start getting the jobs that they have here now? Why won't they do something to help make the immigration situation better for the rest of us? We all have a stake in immigration policy and enforcement, not just illegal aliens.
Got to leave it at that. Interesting discussion. Thank you both for being a part of it.
Thank
Angela
you.
Kelly, Dan Stein, good to see you. Thanks.
The Obama administration has unveiled a significant change regarding immigration policy in this country. Under the new rules, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security will reassess some 300,000 deportation cases in an effort to focus on deporting criminals while dismissing the cases of those illegal immigrants who pose little threat to public safety. In addition, immigration officials will determine case-by-case priority for considering how long someone's been in the country, their level of schooling, any military service, and their ties to the community. We get two different views on the new rules from Dan Stein, president of the Federation for American Immigration Reform, and Angela Maria Kelly, vice president for Immigration Policy and Advocacy for the Center for American Progress. Well, Dan Stein, for the millions who are already here, undocumented, without a right to be here, what's different as of today?
Listen, I care about immigration. I care about my country. I care about our constitutional framework with its checks and balances, where Congress, with its plenary authority, establishes who can come in, who can stay, and under what terms. The president faithfully executes the laws of the land. That means carries out the law as passed by Congress. In this new policy, which appears to potentially apply to millions and millions of illegal immigrants, there appears to be no limit to the potential affirmative exercise of discretion on behalf of illegal immigrants and giving them work authorization indefinitely. This is a form of amnesty that runs around the prerogatives of Congress to set the terms of the law. And as much as whether you care or not, or whether you support amnesty or want people to stay who you think are good people, you have to be concerned about the broader issues here, which is that if it doesn't matter what Congress says, if it doesn't matter what laws Congress establishes, but the president and the administration can just ignore it and let people stay, under the new policy, if you come in on a tourist visa to go to Disneyland and you never leave, you're never going to be deported.
Angela Kelly, was President Obama within his rights as the president, the head of the executive branch, to do what he did?
Absolutely. Look, the President, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, what they announced is right out of enforcement, Law Enforcement 101. It's that you're setting priorities for who's to be removed. High target removals still should be removed from the U.S. People who are involved with drugs, with guns, with violence, people who have criminal records. Of course we want to prioritize those people and remove them all. But any law enforcement officer will tell you that you have to make priorities. You have to allocate resources wisely. And that's simply what the administration has done. It's what other administrations have done in the past. It's what all law enforcement agencies have done. This isn't going to be applied to millions of people. There's going to be careful scrutiny of cases that have been backlogged in the courts for a long time, and an assessment. Is this person a low risk? Do they have long ties to this country because they came as a child? Is this a person who has a family member who's serving in the military? If they are, that is not going to be a priority for removal. If, however, you have someone who has a criminal record, who poses a national security threat, then of course we're going to accelerate and we're going to focus on removing that person. I think that's smart policy. I think it's smart law enforcement.
You just heard Dan Stein call it amnesty, is it?
Of course it's not amnesty. I think Dan Stein will call anything an amnesty that's not a mass deportation. Look, we have to make choices. We have 11 million people here without papers. 11 million. That's the size of the population of Ohio. We can't just randomly deport people without really focusing on those who mean to do us harm, those who have a criminal record. That's something that the Obama administration has done vigorously. This administration is on track. They will have deported more people than the Bush administration, and on track to have deported 1 million people, 800,000 and counting. This is not a soft, easy on illegal immigrant policy. This is getting smarter about how we allocate taxpayer dollars.
This, as I understand it, affects those people who are already in the deportation process at some stage or another. Is it smart to put criminals, as Angela Kelly suggests, further up in the line out of the United States?
Well, look, Ray, from the moment Napolitano came in office, she started this canard that was begun in the Clinton administration of saying, we're going to put our resources behind deporting criminal aliens, serious felons, repeat violators, national security threats, as a political cover to essentially suspend deportation and enforcement operations for everyone else. Naturally, we've had a flood of illegal immigration as a result of the failure to enforce these laws. Now, Angela says, well, we've got 11 million people here illegally. Hey, guess what? You know, we must be doing something wrong. Now, the Obama administration repeatedly tried to get an amnesty bill through Congress, hasn't been able to do it. Various smaller versions, still not able to do it. President himself said he didn't have the discretion to use various loopholes in the law to try to give work authorization and benefits without Congress's authorization. Then he goes off to Martha's Vineyard, and suddenly we get this announcement. Okay, we're essentially telling everybody here illegally that if you don't fit within these narrow classifications of serious, repeated, aggravated felon, national security threat, you basically got nothing to worry about. And if you are apprehended somehow, inadvertently, by local police, and they turn you over to ICE, well, we're just going to get released again. This is going to create an enforcement chaos nightmare. We have no idea how many people we're talking about. Where are the resources going to come from? If you start giving deferred action, which is nowhere in the statute, by the way, deferred action to 300,000 or 100,000 people, where are the resources to review those cases, screen them? In the internal memos considering this usurpation, they were saying, we don't even know where the funding would come from this, so it's really not a feasible approach, but now they're doing it anyway. In our view, and I don't say this lightly, I know some people like Angela think, well, we're too hard-hearted. We're truly concerned about a breakdown in the integrity of this country's ability to control its borders and determine who has the right to stay and who doesn't. That is what is at stake here, far broader than the question of the 300,000 people right now in the deportation queue.
How do you answer Dan Stein's concerns?
We're concerned about the same thing. We're concerned about having a coherence to our removal procedures and policies. And I'm breathing a sigh of relief because I think this administration is getting a handle on how to do that by targeting the worst of the worst rather than deporting the best and the brightest. By being just, assessing that we've got limited resources. These are tough economic times. Nobody has infinite resources. And by targeting those who mean to do us harm, those with criminal records, and saying you're going to be the first in the queue to be removed. But not only that, the memo is also clear that this isn't an open program that's going to protect everyone. It's very specific. We're talking about people who have been in the U.S. as children. We're talking about people who have a military spouse, a close family member in the military. It's very narrow. I think it's very smart and very targeted. But at the end of the day, the only way that we're going to be getting to a real solution is if Congress steps up and acts. And there is yet to be any will, particularly in the part of Republicans, to get behind a comprehensive bill that would put resolution to what are we going to do about the 11 million people who are here without status.
Secretary Napolitano said, for her part, that this doesn't give what she calls categorical relief
Correct.
to anybody who's awaiting deportation.
Case-by-case determination.
But an official also said that this could lead to legal right to work in the country if it is found that you are not one of those high security risk people. How is that not amnesty?
So for people who are among the 300,000, who are the very lowest priority, those cases will be closed, and the person whose case is closed will have an opportunity to apply for work authorization. Time limited so that they can work in the country. It's not permanent residency. It doesn't permit them to travel. It doesn't give them any permanent benefit. So some will get that opportunity to be able to work legally in the U.S., but that's it. No benefits, nothing else. And it's not even, frankly, sure who will get that benefit.
A very quick response.
Look, the American people have a right to have their fiscal integrity secured through border and perimeter controls, whether it's good schools, health care, hospitals, our job market. We have the right to compete in a fair labor market where illegal immigrants are not working. The Obama administration seems to have abandoned any pretense of enforcing U.S. immigration law in the interior. And any dry-eyed look at this analysis will tell you Congress and the American people have been shoved out of the way, and the administration's gone rogue.
Dan Stein, Angela Kelly, thank you both.
Thank you.
Juliet, the White House halting the automatic deportation of all illegal immigrants. Instead, the Department of Homeland Security will determine deportation on a case-by-case basis. But critics say President Obama is sidestepping Congress to grant amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants. For a fair and balanced debate on this, we're joined by Dan Stein, president of Federation for American Immigration Reform, and Hispanic issues advocate Rafael Collazo. He's the National Deputy Director of Democracia Incorporated. Nice to see both of you this morning.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you.
Rafael, let me start with you. Answer critics here who say that this is the president simply sidestepping Congress. The law exists. Why is the president going around it?
Well, we applaud the Department of Homeland Security and the administration for focusing on the business of Homeland Security and our public safety. For us to prioritize immigration enforcement resources on deporting criminals instead of the spouses of veterans and pregnant women and college students is simply smart law enforcement, in our opinion.
Dan, it sounds like, and other critics have argued on the other side of this, that these new rules seem like they're completely wide open. Veterans and what Rafael was just talking about, doesn't that open up the door for all kinds of problems?
Well, look, you have to look against the backdrop of, say, Arizona and Alabama. This administration is essentially creating a constitutional crisis by taking upon itself a virtually limitless right, in their view, to give illegal aliens work authorization, to let people stay, to rewrite the immigration laws. So regardless of where you are on the immigration issue, whether you want amnesty or you don't want amnesty, this should concern you, a chilling arrogation of authority away from Congress, sidestepping Congress to make immigration laws. The articulated policy appears to have virtually no limits to the power that they're trying to seize to decide how many illegal aliens can stay, who can come, get work authorization. No definable limits. This is a true constitutional crisis, and people need to understand what's going on here.
Let me get Rafael's response to that. Is this a crisis? I mean, it sounds like the president having to take these drastic actions here, Rafael. We have a serious problem on our hands. Don't we need broad-based immigration reform as a result of this?
Well, we agree with that. But for those that say that this is some sort of backdoor amnesty or playing politics with this issue, for there to be a thoughtful process of evaluating on a case-by-case basis, those that we need to address immediately and deport because they're criminals or pose a danger to society versus, again, college students that we could use to be competitive in the global marketplace, is about American values, isn't it? Is that about due process and the rule of law and fairness?
Look, these are ultimately decisions Congress and the American people make through the democratic process. Why do immigrants want to come to this country? Because the rule of law prevails, the system works, and you don't get special treatment for jumping the line. People who waited and respected our laws outside the country waited for years. They have been made complete suckers and fools by this administration. What they've said is if you come here on a visa to go to Disney World and you never leave, you're never going to be deported. We now have virtually unlimited immigration dictated solely by the small number of hardcore criminals and maybe terrorists that they're willing to deport, and the willingness of people to come here and break our laws.
Rafael,
that's not an immigration policy. That's chaos.
Rafael,
we have to see how this new policy plays out, but we agree that we need to address this is one step. But we need to address this broken immigration system, which we all agree is broken, and we need leadership from Congress and the administration to come up with a comprehensive solution to this federal issue.
But Dan, I want to go back to something Rafael said earlier in this backlog of cases, and this is a concern from the other side, and get you to respond to this, of course, that a lot of these people end up waiting months, if not years, to get their day in court, and at the cost to taxpayers. So taxpayers probably don't know that they're footing the bill for hundreds of dollars a week for these illegal immigrants to sit in prison while they're waiting 3 years, in some cases, to actually see their day in court. Is this not a process maybe to speed that up?
Well, because look, policies from the Clinton administration forward have created a large pool of illegal aliens in the country. From the moment Janet Napolitano took office, she said, we're going to focus on criminal alien removal as a pretense for not doing immigration enforcement generally. This administration is no longer doing worksite raids, no interior enforcement of any kind. They're doing it for partisan political reasons. They have politicized our immigration policy in ways never before seen in American history for the sham, basically, of trying to get ethnic votes. And that is a corruption of the basic principle by which we make immigration policy, and ultimately the president takes the oath of office to enforce the laws of this country. He's abdicated that responsibility. Okay, and what is Congress supposed to do now?
Thank you, Dan. Rafael, I'll give you the final word on this.
This administration has increased the amount of deportations, increased the amount of felons being deported, and I think Americans all agree, Hispanic or not, that we need Congress and the federal government to address these real problems affecting our country, like the broken immigration system that we have.
Dan and Rafael, a great debate this morning. We appreciate you coming on. Let me know what you think about this. You can find me, I'm Clayton Morris, on Twitter. You can also email us, friends@Fox.